Good day, students. Today we're going to look at the solutions to 17E and F. It's part of your Chapter 1 sample quiz in Book 1 of your Math 1026 booklets. And it's asking us in this particular equations to again sketch these inequalities. And inequalities form a half plane. Half plane means we're going to cover just above or below the line half of the area, if you would. Now the first one is already in y equals mx plus b. So look, we know the slope right away. The slope of this, of course, is the coefficient when it's in this form. Remember, when it's in the form y equals or greater than or whatever, mx plus b, the number in front of x is the slope. So the slope here is negative 3/5. And the y-intercept here is plus 2. Now, that's two of the four things you need to know when you're graphing an inequality. The other two things you got to look at is what type of boundary line do I use, and do I shade above or below? And that's told by this sign here. And this sign right this time, of course, that's greater than, isn't it? So have a look at your inequality sign, greater than in this case. And greater than tells us two things. Greater than tells us, first of all, because there's no equal sign, I have a dashed or broken boundary line. Okay? Dashed boundary line or broken boundary line, whatever way you want to say it. Okay? So in other words, our boundary line is not solid. And greater than also tells us about the shading. And when it's greater than, we shade above the line. Shade above the line. Okay? Now we're going to do it by hand, and I'll show you how to do that on the calculator as well. Okay? So let's have a look at it. Now, when you know the slope and y-intercept, your starting point is always your y-intercept. So my y-intercept is positive 2. That's where I start. Okay? So I go to positive 2, and I indicate that point on my axis. So positive 2. There it is right there, positive 2. And then from that point I use my slope. Now my slope is negative, so that means my boundary line is going to slant upward to the left. So I go up 1, rise. Now remember, it's rise over run, so the rise is 3 and the run is 5, and it's negative, so I go up 3 and run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or that's the same as going down 3, 1, 2, 3, and go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. So either or. Now it's a broken line. Okay, broken line. So you have to some way to show that it's dashed. You can use a line drawer and just draw pieces. Well, it's easier for me if I just use a pen, I think, without a line. So let's go and see if I can sketch this line now. And I'm using a broken line. Okay, so let me just see if I can get this a bit more accurate than that. Let's take that away. I'll start here today. Okay, I missed it a little bit, but you got the idea. Okay, it doesn't look like a very straight line, but not bad. Okay, now therefore, now what do we're not finished. Remember, it's a region, it's a half plane. So the question is it this half? Because the boundary line splits your plane into two planes. Or is it this half? So that's your question. Now, where the sign is greater than, we shade above. So the proper area to shade would be up here. So just take your pen and shade this area above your line. So everywhere above the line, but not including the line, so don't touch the line. There's no equal sign. And just shade that in somehow, as neatly as you can. Obviously I'm not that neat, but that's not bad. Now if you want to test it, make sure you shade it in the right area. Just pick a point. Pick a point in that region and test it. For example, I can see the point right here. Let me get a color going. Let's see. This point right here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. So the point 4, 0 is in that shaded region. Just stick it back in your line. So there's my line, y greater than negative 3 over 5 x plus 2. So y is 0. Is 0 greater than negative 3 over 5 times 4 plus 2? That's negative 12 over 5 plus 2. Okay, negative 12 over 5. Let's see what that is. Negative 12. If you're not sure, divided by 5. That's negative 2.4. Alright, plus 2, which is negative. So is 0 greater than negative 0.4? And the answer is certainly, that's true. 0 is greater than a negative number, right? So we know we have the right area shaded. Okay, so that's the solution to E. Now let's do it on calculator. Again, how do you do inequalities on calculators? So first are graph inequalities. First thing I want to do is go and bring up the inequality graphing window. And I do that by pressing apps. See the apps button right there. Scroll down till you find inequal Z. Let's see, scroll down a little bit. It should be coming up here any second. There it is. Inequal Z. See it there? I went too far. Let me go back. Enter. And enter again. So hit enter twice. Now it brings up the graphing window, and that must be in the form y equals, or y greater than, or y greater than or equal to. And it gives you 5 options. Okay? Now our first one, if we look, is y greater than negative 3/5 x. So I want to use greater than, which is this button here. So I have to hit trace. But in order to do it, I have to hit the green button, the alpha button first. Alpha, trace, and notice it changed it to greater than, right? So greater than, and it showed you a little dotted line and shading above. Now just use your arrow, go over and put in negative 3/5. I like to put coefficients. Oh, I didn't put negative 3 divided by 5 in front of x. So it's negative 3/5 x plus 2. Now hit your graph button, and you can see it's shading above. There it is. Okay, so you know you're correct. Now the second one is a half plane as well, and this one we can't just look at it and tell what m and b, right? We just can't look at it, so we have some extra work to do in the second one. So let's solve that now for y and get the slope. So again, how do we do that? That's a couple of steps. So I got minus y. Now I'm going to bring the 3x over and put it right in front, right there. So minus y greater than or equal to minus 3x plus 6. Okay? Now what do? I divide everything by negative 2, right? So I got negative 2y, divide that by negative 3x, divide that by negative, positive 6, divide that by negative. Now, remember, you've just divided an inequality by a negative number. What happens? Very important. This is greater than or equal to. When you divide by a negative number, which we did, now it doesn't happen when you divide by positive, but dividing by a negative, you must switch the inequality. So that inequality changes from greater than or equal to less than or equal to. Now simplify. These cancel. Y is less than or equal to negative over negative. That's positive 3 over 2 x, and positive 6 divided by negative 2, that's minus 3. So the slope of this one is positive 3 over 2, and the y-intercept is negative 3. Now it has an equal sign this time, and because of that equal sign, my boundary line will be solid. So this tells us is a solid boundary line. Okay, and because it's less than, it also tells me I am going to shade below the line. Okay, so let's do it by hand first, and then we'll do it on the calculator. Alright, so start. Where do you start when you graph a line or a linear inequality? You start at the y-intercept. So I'm going right down to negative 3. And from that point, I rise 3. My slope is 3 over 2. Up 3 over 2. There's another point on my boundary line. Up 3 over 2. Another point. Up 1, 2, 3 over 2. This time I can use the line maker because it's a solid line. So let me draw that line now right through those points. It's a solid line, so there it is right there. Now, question is again, which half plane are you going to shade? Right? Are you going to shade above, which is this one, or are you shading below, which is this one here? Alright? Now, so which one? Well, we changed it to less than or equal to. And less than or equal to means we shade below. So just take your pen and whatever color you want, just shade that in. So this is the half plane we're talking about. This half plane right here. Okay? So any point in that region should work, and you can take it. So I'm going to pick a test point. I'm going to pick this one right here. That's 5 and 0. Right? Now I'm going to put it right back. Look way up here. I'm going to put it back in the original equation. 3 times 5 subtract 2 times 0 should be greater than or equal to 6. 15 subtract 2, or subtract 0. 2 times 0, of course, is 0. So is 15 greater than or equal to 6? That's a true statement. And because you get a true statement, you know you've picked a point in the right region. Okay, let's go to our calculator and double check it. So we got y equals. Now this time, I'm just going to go over here and clear that one out. Now this time, what is our inequality? It's less than or equal to. That's this one here. So I hit the zoom button to get less than or equal to, but hit alpha, zoom, and it changes it to less than or equal to, shows you a solid line shading below. Then go over here and just type it in. And you must put it in this format right here, right? Y equals mx plus b. So again, it's 3 divided by 2 is the slope. I like to put that in brackets in front of x minus 3. And let's have a look. Hit your graph button. And you can see that it's very similar to ours. Now it might be slanted slightly because their grid is set up differently than our grid, but there's a correct solution. Okay, so that's a complete solution for number 17 on page 99 of your sample quiz for chapter 1.